Okay, today I want to talk about gear and more specifically lenses and even more specifically this lens. This is the Sony 28 to 70 f2 Master. This is the lens that won me over to the Sony system after shooting with Canon for my entire career. This thing is totally amazing. It's like no other lens I've ever used. So what's so great about it? Well, this feels like a more modern version of the Canon 28 to 70, which is a lens that I owned for quite a while and loved, aside for the size and the weight. It was a good lens. It wasn't necessarily the sharpest lens, but it was a versatile lens, having that sort of mid-range zoom at f2 all the way through. But I ended up not using it because I wasn't as in love with the results that I was getting, and the lens was just really difficult to manage. So when I saw that Sony had released a smaller, lighter version, I was really curious. One of the things that I've always been a little bit interested in when it comes to Sony is the size of the cameras and the lenses. It's just, they're generally smaller than the Canon system. And because I'm a wedding photographer and I'm shooting film and digital, I typically have multiple cameras on me. I pretty much have 3 cameras on me all day, 2 film and 1 digital. And the weight of the Canon gear, it was a lot. So the thought of having a smaller, lighter system with a 28 to 70 f2 lens that I could actually use all day for everything, like 1 digital camera body, it just made a lot of sense. So I just want to show you, this is the Canon 24 to 70 f2.8L, and this is the Sony 28 to 70 f2 GM. And these are almost the same size and weight. So the 28 to 70 f2 is basically the same size and weight as the Canon 24 to 70 2.8. Just to further compare, this is the Sony 24 to 70 f2.8 G Master compared with the 28 to 70. So the 24 to 70 from Sony is actually pretty small and lightweight for a mid-range zoom like this. It makes the 28 to 70 look big in comparison, but I just wanted to give you a size difference. And then just to show you, again, here's the Canon 24 to 70 next to the Sony 24 to 70. So Canon is quite a bit beefier than the Sony version. Okay, so size and weight, yes, we get it, but is the 28 to 70 good? Now, one of my problems with the Canon version of the 28 to 70 f2 was just it wasn't as sharp as the primes. It didn't really give me that same kind of like juicy look as the prime lenses. What I love about this Sony lens is it definitely has a look that's closer to prime lenses in my experience. This lens is just really sharp, has amazing autofocus. It's really reliable, and the photos it produces are beautiful and interesting. I really love the look of this lens. I did find that I don't love shooting the 28 to 70 at 28 millimeter. I just felt like there was a little bit too much distortion at 28 millimeter for my taste. So I don't usually go super wide with this lens unless I actually have to. I'm mostly at 35 and up, primarily sticking to 50 and 70 millimeter, which is gorgeous on this lens. So for me as a wedding photographer who shoots with film and digital, looking for a 1 digital camera solution, this is the perfect solution. It's a lens that you can use all day long in any lighting scenario, and I could shoot an entire wedding day on this easily. I do find that I like to have a wider lens for dance floor in the evening because 28 millimeters can sometimes feel a little bit too tight in certain situations. So that's the only time that I would want that 24 millimeter focal length. So that's one downside to having a 28 to 70 versus a 24 to 70. But the f2 aperture all the way through is a welcome trade-off for that focal length. You can still use 28 millimeters on the dance floor. That's the focal length of my Leica lens that I use on the dance floor. So it's definitely usable. It's just sometimes having a 24 is a little bit easier. Does this replace my prime lenses? Well, I have to say that I think it could for sure replace your prime lenses, but the experience of shooting with the prime is not easily replicated. So like when I'm using this, it just doesn't feel the same as when I'm using a prime lens. Of course, it's not as bright as prime lenses, 1.4 lenses, 1.2 lenses. For low light situations at weddings, they really can't be beat. An f2 lens like this can definitely replace the primes, but it doesn't give you that same experience. I really like the feeling of having a prime on my camera. That being said, I found that after using the 28-70, I'm kind of spoiled, and it's more difficult for me to photograph an event on a prime lens because it's just so much less convenient than when I'm shooting with this lens. So I think for the way that I shoot, this is just the best option. This covers my bases as far as digital photography goes, and then I have prime lenses on my film cameras, and I can still get that experience while I'm shooting film. So yeah, anyway, I've really loved my experience using this Sony lens, and honestly, the Sony system. I made a video a while back about how I wasn't switching to Sony. I have pretty much switched over to Sony for stills. We are still heavily invested in Canon, and we're using Canon cameras for video as of now, although I am shooting this video on the A7R5, so there's that. But yeah, being in both systems has been interesting, and I've really been loving the Sony system for the size, the weight, the specs of the cameras, the capabilities of the cameras, and also the files, the really high resolution, detailed files of the A1 and the A7R5 have really amazing detail, resolution, color. I've just enjoyed these files so much. This switch to Sony has been a welcome change, and I've really been loving it. And I'm really excited to learn more about the system and see how Sony continues to innovate in the digital camera space and bring more content to the channel here. But yeah, anyway, to sum it up, if you are an event photographer, wedding photographer, someone who would benefit from having a bright mid-range zoom lens like this, you're gonna love this lens. It's a solid, good size lens, but it's not overly massive or overly heavy. You can use it all day, and it creates absolutely gorgeous, interesting, exciting images, and it's sort of well-rounded. It's just a great tool, and I have loved using it. Let me know what you think down in the comments, which lens of the three that I mentioned would be your pick and why. If you have questions, please let me know. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. I'd love to see you at the next video. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.